Remember, it's always about the light. Here's the deal. Light not only is responsible for creating the photo, but it also decides the exposure. The direction of light sets the mood, and the color of light determines the temperature and the feel of the picture. Lighting separates the beginner from the experts. You know, we've all heard the cliches, but do you really understand what happens when that shutter clicks and the flash fires? You know, before I move on to the main components of flash exposure, let's talk about why flash is important and why you should start taking control of your light. The first thing is, don't be a run and gun shooter. Take your time to create exciting lighting. What do I mean by run and gun? You know, without fail, I have somebody at every workshop that looks like a small child trying to ride every ride at the county fair. You know, he's going, hey, look over there, and there's a shot over there, and wait for me, you can't stop, I gotta get. You know, a run and gun shooter doesn't take time to set up his shot, and lighting tends to be an afterthought. I say, the more you understand lighting, the less mental anguish you put into lighting, because it becomes second nature. And then you can take time to make sure everything's working together to create the best photograph possible. Let's be honest. Have you ever encountered a situation where you told yourself, this is not working, but I'll just fix it in Photoshop? You know, we've all been there. I love Photoshop, and I am in no way anti-Photoshop. You know, but I've discovered over the years, it is much easier and much more appealing to do it right in camera than try to create it digitally. I like to tell people, try to do your lighting in camera. Don't rely on Photoshop. You know, if you're like me, I want people to say, that guy is a great photographer, not, that guy sure is good at Photoshop. If you've been a photographer for any length of time, you know all too well, clients never pick a good time of day to have their pictures made. Weddings are always at high noon. Seniors, they hate getting up early. Family portraits are always wanted at that favorite spot in full sunlight. But that's okay. That's our job, handling bad light. Joe McNally said it best in Hot Shoe Diaries. As photographers, we need to know how to manage bad light well. So, what is bad light as a general rule? Bad light is harsh light, that bright, in-your-face, color-washing light. Low light. Every wedding reception seems to be plagued with low light. And high noon, that ugly overhead, sunken eye socket creating light. But we're photographers, the last line of defense. I'm not afraid of bad light. So what does lighting, flash, strobes, reflectors do for your photo? Why even learn flash photography when I love natural light? Here's my number one reason. Because flash gives you options. You know, I love natural light, but when somebody tells me their love of natural light is the reason they don't shoot flash, all I hear is, I don't know how to use my flash. Let me give you 4 more reasons to master flash. Flash adds color, it adds contrast, it has sharpness, and it allows you to manage what the photos will look like. Flash tends to add color and makes them really pop. Because you control the direction of light with a flash, contrast is greatly improved. Sharpness is added because you shoot at a higher shutter speed and you're able to freeze that action and get tack sharp photos. And what do I mean about having options? Thanks. Remember how much I said I love natural light? When the lighting's just right, you can't beat the sun as your source of light. But if you live in the real world, the sun is rarely where it needs to be. When it's right, turn off the flash and capture the magic that is natural light. But more often than not, natural light sucks. During these times, simply switch on the flash and power through it. You've got options. Again, remember, in order to make your clients comfortable, lighting must become second nature. You must demonstrate to them that you know exactly what you're doing. I briefly mentioned the direction of light is just as important as quantity and quality of light. And here's why. It creates three things. Detail, because obviously it illuminates what needs to be seen. Depth, by separating objects within the photograph. And dimension, by creating layers of light that appear to make it look three-dimensional. Lose any aspect of direction, quality, or quantity of light, and your photograph tends to fall flat. You know, we've yet to begin to even talk about that most important and least understood facet of light, which is softness. How often have we heard that light is too harsh and we need to soften it up? What does that really mean? Can we really soften light? Yes, we can, as it relates to photography. But we must understand what makes up soft light. The softness of light has nothing to do with how diffused the light is as much as the size of the light source. Basically, the smaller the light source, the harder the light will be. Diffuse light can sometimes trick you into thinking it's nice, soft light. Let me show you an example of why this is. Notice here in this photo of my son how hard the edge of light is. This photo was taken with a bare Nikon flash. Now, in the next photo, look how soft the light appears. This was taken with the diffuser on that came with that flash. It looks like amazing soft light, right? But look closer at each photo and you will see that the shadow lines on my son are still there. They've just been filled in because the light has been bounced in from the walls and the ceiling. The same hard lines from the shadows are still present. That's because we never changed the size of our light source. Take a look at one last shot through an umbrella. By changing the size of the light, we've now affected the shadows. Take a look at this last side-by-side comparison. We first see the harsh shadow line, followed by the same shadow, but filled in by bounced light. And then finally, the shadow is totally removed by a large light source. Here's why. If we look at the graphic, we can see that a small light source could never produce soft light. The softness of light is created by the transition from full illumination to no illumination. Light only travels in a straight line. It doesn't bend, it doesn't wrap. In this graphic, you can see that light is radiating from a very small point. Because it only travels in the straight line, no light can reach the back of our subject. Let's take a look at a larger light source. Realizing that light is radiating from the entire surface of the light source, you can now see that the light coming from the edges can start reaching behind our subject. Take a closer look and notice that the light from the left side cannot reach as far around the subject as on the right side, from the light that's coming in from the right side. From this point back, we're not getting light from both sides. This is what creates that gradient of light that we call softness. It doesn't end here. Look what happens. As we move the light source closer, it becomes larger relative to our subject. Now you can understand what it really means when you hear the term wrapping of light. Now, just to concrete this idea in your mind, let's take a look again at a small light source. It wouldn't matter how close or how diffused, it will never be able to radiate behind our subject and create soft light. That small light will always remain a hard light source.